The anomaly. The observation deck of the Galactic Conclave headquarters offered the most spectacular view in known space, but Admiral Thora Velnar wasn't admiring the sweeping vista of the Andromeda Arm. Her attention was fixed on the holographic projection hovering above the central console, a small ship drifting through the crimson mists of what every spacefaring species had known for millennia as the Death Void. "Impossible," she whispered, her scaled fingers tracing the outline of the vessel. "Nothing survives in the void." The Death Void had been designated forbidden territory since the earliest days of interstellar travel. Over 3,000 years of documented history recorded the same result. Any ship entering the Crimson Nebula disintegrated within minutes, their final transmissions describing only unbearable agony before communication ceased. "Scans confirmed, Admiral," reported her second-in-command, Captain Zax. "The vessel has been inside the void for 27 standard cycles. Life support functioning, minimal power signature, and one life form aboard." A murmur rippled through the observation deck as the gathered representatives of the Galactic Conclave processed this information. 27 cycles, nearly a month by human standards, when even the most advanced conclave vessels couldn't last more than minutes. "Origin?" Thor asked, though she already knew the answer. "Human," Zax confirmed, his compound eyes reflecting the crimson glow of the hologram. "A Pioneer-class exploration vessel, primitive by our standards. No special shielding, no advanced propulsion systems." Representative Kavarn of the Illuvian Consortium hissed between needle-like teeth. "Humans, barely a century since their first interstellar flight, and already they breach our most sacred boundary." "We don't know that this was intentional," Thora countered, though she shared Kavarn's unease. "Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and seemed to possess an almost reckless disregard for established limitations." The Conclave Elder, Mokhtar, stepped forward. His ancient form was supported by an exoskeleton, his natural body having long ago surpassed his species' typical lifespan. "Intentional or not, we must retrieve the vessel before others learn of this breach. If the humans have discovered a method to traverse the void." He didn't need to finish the thought. The Death Void cut across a significant portion of the galaxy, forcing trade routes and exploration missions to navigate around its vast expanse. A safe passage through would reshape galactic power structures overnight. "But how do we retrieve it?" asked Representative Yelana of the Cephi Federation. "Our vessels cannot enter the void any more successfully now than they could 3,000 years ago." Thora straightened her uniform. "Decision made. We construct a specialized retrieval vessel using our most advanced shielding technology. I will lead the mission personally." "That would take weeks," Kavarn objected. "By then, the humans could broadcast their discovery across the sector." "There is no evidence they even understand what they've accomplished," Thora replied. "Our intelligence suggests this could have been an accident. A navigation error, perhaps." "Humans do not have accidents." Kavarn's voice dripped with disdain. "They are dangerously curious, pushing boundaries they barely comprehend with technology they scarcely understand." The hologram shifted, zooming in on the human vessel. Its hull bore scorch marks and impact damage, yet remained intact where superior ships had been reduced to atoms. Elder Mokhtar raised a gnarled hand, silencing the growing debate. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we've been approaching this incorrectly. What if the void's destructive properties aren't strictly physical phenomena, requiring technological countermeasures?" The observation deck fell silent. "Explain," Thora prompted, intrigued. "What if," the Elder continued, his ancient eyes fixed on the hologram, "the void's effect is influenced by consciousness itself? We've always assumed it to be a region of space with unique properties, but what if it's something more selective?" Kavarn scoffed. "You suggest these primitive humans possess some mental adaptation our species lack." "I'm suggesting," Mokhtar replied calmly, "that their minds work differently. Humans embrace chaos and contradiction. They thrive on uncertainty in ways our more evolved species cannot comprehend." Before Thora could respond, the hologram flickered with new data. "Movement detected," announced the monitoring system. "The human vessel is powering up its main systems." The gathered representatives watched as lights flickered to life across the ship's hull. A transmission signal pulsed from the vessel, not directed at any conclave monitoring station, but deeper into the void itself. "They're sending a message," Zax whispered. "But to whom?" The answer came moments later as sensors detected massive energy surges from within the crimson depths. Something was responding. "Initiate emergency protocols," Thora ordered, her training overriding her shock. "Withdraw all monitoring stations immediately." As the conclave representatives scrambled to comply, the human vessel began to move with purpose, not retreating from the void as any rational being would, but advancing deeper into it, toward whatever had answered their call. "Prepare my ship," Thora told Zax. "Override all safety protocols. I'm going in after them." "Admiral," Zax protested, "the risk is necessary," she finished. "If that human has discovered something in the void that's been hidden from us for millennia, I need to know what it is before the information spreads." Within hours, Thora's vessel approached the boundary of the death void. The crimson mists swirled before her, beautiful and deadly. According to all known science, her ship would begin disintegrating the moment it crossed the threshold. "Last chance to reconsider, Admiral," came Zax's voice over the comm. Thora took a deep breath. "Sometimes understanding requires risk, Captain. Track my signal as long as you can." She engaged the engines and plunged into the crimson mists. The first sensation was pain, sharp, immediate, radiating through her body. Her instruments flashed warning signals as the outer hull began to register molecular degradation. And then, suddenly, the pain vanished. Thora blinked in confusion. According to her instruments, her vessel was still deteriorating, yet she felt nothing. More strangely, the deterioration had slowed to nearly imperceptible levels. A voice, unfamiliar, calm, spoke through her communication system. "Fascinating approach. Most visitors try to shield themselves completely. That never works." Thora's hand went instinctively to her sidearm. "Identify yourself." "Commander Maya Chen, Earth Exploration Corps," the voice replied. "Though I suspect you already knew I was human. Just as I suspect you're wondering how I survived here for nearly a month." On her view screen, the human vessel came into view, now fully powered and maneuvering with precision through the crimson mists. It moved alongside Thora's ship, close enough that she could see the human woman in the cockpit. Dark hair pulled back, expression curious rather than fearful. "I'm Admiral Thora Velinar of the Galactic Conclave. You've entered a forbidden zone, Commander Chen. A zone that should have killed you within minutes." The human smiled. "Yes, that's what all your warning beacons said. Very emphatic about the certain death part. Intriguing, since there's nothing inherently deadly about this region of space." Thora's eyes narrowed. "The death void has claimed thousands of vessels over 3 millennia. Because they fought it," Chen replied simply. "The more you resist the void, the more it destroys you. It's not a natural phenomenon. It's a test, or perhaps more accurately, a filter." Before Thora could demand clarification, her sensors detected another energy surge, larger than before, emanating from deeper within the void. Both vessels shuddered under the wave of energy. "They're waking up," Chen said, her smile fading. "And they weren't expecting company. Follow me closely, Admiral. Match my movements exactly, and most importantly, open your mind. The void doesn't destroy what it recognizes as conscious and accepting." "Who is waking up?" Thora demanded. "What have you found here?" The human's eyes met hers through the view screen. "The reason your ancestors declared this zone forbidden. The guardians of something your people weren't ready to find. But maybe, just maybe, we're ready now." As if in response to Chen's words, the crimson mists parted before them, revealing a structure that, according to every law of physics and 3,000 years of conclave history, simply could not exist. Thora gasped as she beheld what appeared to be a massive space station, ancient beyond reckoning, suspended in the heart of the void. Its architecture was unlike anything in known space, flowing lines of what looked like liquid metal, constantly shifting yet maintaining a perfect structural integrity. "Welcome," said Commander Chen, "to what I believe your oldest texts called the Nexus of Creation, the birthplace of consciousness in our galaxy." And as Thora's ship drew closer to the impossible structure, the certainties upon which she had built her life began to crumble. The void had been forbidden not because it was dangerous, but because what it contained was too powerful to be discovered before the galaxy was ready. The question now was whether that time had finally come. The Guardian's secret. The impossible structure grew larger as their ships approached, its liquid metal surface rippling like water disturbed by a stone. Patterns of light raced across its surface, not random, Thora realized, but organized. Information. Communication. "It's alive," she whispered. "In a sense," Commander Chen replied, her voice calm through the comm system. "More accurately, it's a vast neural network, a mind built by beings who existed long before any of our civilizations." Thora's ship shuddered as another energy wave passed through it. Warning lights flashed across her console, but the deterioration had stopped completely. "You knew this was here. This wasn't an accident." The human's expression remained neutral. "Not entirely. Earth received fragmented transmissions from this region. Patterns no one could decipher. When I volunteered to investigate, the consensus was that I'd never return. Yet here you are," Thora observed, her suspicion growing, "surviving where thousands of superior vessels have been destroyed." Chen's smile returned, enigmatic. "Perhaps superior isn't the correct metric. Your people have been trying to force your way in for millennia, fighting the void's effect with stronger shields, more powerful engines. I simply listened." A docking bay materialized on the station's surface. There was no other way to describe it. Where smooth metal had been moments before, an opening appeared, large enough to accommodate both their vessels. "It's inviting us in," Chen said. "Will you accept?" Every instinct in Thora's body screamed caution, yet something deeper, curiosity perhaps, or destiny, compelled her forward. "I'll follow your lead, Commander." Their ships glided into the docking bay, landing on a surface that seemed to mold itself perfectly to their vessel's configurations. The atmosphere readings shifted to show breathable air outside, air that couldn't possibly exist in an ancient station abandoned for millennia. Thora donned her environmental suit regardless. Protocol existed for a reason, and she had already broken enough regulations by entering the void. She cycled through her airlock and stepped onto the station's deck. Commander Chen emerged from her vessel without any protective gear, wearing only a standard exploration uniform. She was smaller than Thora had expected. Humans generally were, but carried herself with confidence. Her dark eyes showed intelligence and something else Thora couldn't quite identify. Anticipation, perhaps. "You should be dead," Thora stated flatly. "The deterioration effect only affects those who resist it," Chen finished. "It's not radiation or any physical force your scientists would recognize. It's a consciousness filter. Those who approach with rigid thinking, with fear or aggression or absolute certainty, they trigger the defense mechanisms." Thora kept her distance, her hand near her weapon. "And you approached how, exactly?" "With openness, with acceptance of my own ignorance, with willingness to be changed by what I found." Chen gestured to their surroundings. "The precursors built this place as a repository of knowledge, but they knew knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. The void isn't a natural barrier, it's a test of psychological readiness." The walls around them began to shift, corridors forming and reforming, as if the station were guiding them somewhere specific. Lights pulsed along the floor, creating a path. "It wants us to follow," Chen said, already moving in the indicated direction. After a moment's hesitation, Thora followed. "The Conclave has protected the boundary of the void for millennia," Thora said as they walked. "Warning beacons, patrol ships, designating it forbidden territory. Are you suggesting our ancestors knew what was here? Chen nodded. Not just knew. They were the ones who activated the defensive protocols. The earliest records in Earth's archaeological databases mention a great war, fought before most of our species had achieved spaceflight, a war over access to the knowledge contained here. The corridor opened into a vast chamber whose center held what appeared to be a control interface, a console built for beings with anatomy similar to their own. Above it, the air itself became a three-dimensional display, showing the galaxy in perfect detail. Your ancestors won that war, Chen continued. They determined that the galaxy wasn't ready for what the precursors had left behind. Rather than destroy this place, they sealed it away, using the station's own defenses to create the death void. Thora removed her helmet, the air tasting strangely sweet. If what you're saying is true, how did you discover this? And why would the station accept you when it has rejected everyone else for 3,000 years? Chen placed her hand on the console, and the galactic display shifted, focusing on Earth. Because humans think differently. Where most species seek certainty, we thrive in ambiguity. Where you build on consensus, we value dissent. And most importantly, she turned to face Thora directly. Where advanced species have evolved toward specialization, humans remained adaptable generalists. The display changed again, showing DNA sequences side by side, different species from across the galaxy. The precursors didn't disappear, Chen said softly. They seeded themselves across the galaxy, becoming part of every evolving sentient species, fragments of their consciousness, waiting to be rejoined when the time was right. Thora felt a chill run through her body. And humans are, what? More precursor than the rest of us. Not more, Chen corrected. Different. Less specialized. More raw. We retain cognitive patterns similar to the precursors themselves, the capacity to hold contradictory ideas simultaneously, to leap intuitively between concepts, to embrace uncertainty as opportunity rather than threat. The chamber trembled as the station continued its awakening. Panels along the walls illuminated, revealing repositories of technology beyond anything Thora had seen in her centuries of service to the Conclave. The void doesn't kill, Chen explained. It transforms. Those who enter unprepared have their consciousness expanded too rapidly. The pain your people reported was the beginning of that transformation. But without proper preparation, the mind fragments before it can complete the process. And you were prepared? Thora asked skeptically. Not entirely, Chen admitted with a small laugh. I nearly didn't make it. But there's something else about humans that helped me survive. We're stubborn. When the transformation began, I didn't fight it, but I refused to surrender my core identity. The station recognized that balance and guided me through the rest. A new display formed above the console, symbols and equations that made Thora's head ache just looking at them. What is all this? The precursor's legacy, Chen said, her voice reverent. Unified field theory, consciousness transfer protocols, matter-energy conversion principles beyond anything our civilizations have imagined. The foundations of creation itself. Thora took an involuntary step backward. If this information spread uncontrolled throughout the galaxy, war, Chen nodded, collapse, destruction, just as your ancestors feared, which is why I haven't transmitted any of it back to Earth. Thora blinked in surprise. You've been here nearly a month with the greatest scientific discovery in history, and you've told no one. Some discoveries require wisdom before they can be shared, Chen replied. I spent my time learning from the station, understanding not just the how of these technologies, but the why. The precursors left ethical frameworks alongside their science, guides for implementation that preserve consciousness and life. Another tremor, stronger this time, shook the chamber. The display flickered, momentarily showing what appeared to be a massive, intricate web stretching between star systems. The network is destabilizing, Chen said with sudden urgency. The defensive protocols are fighting with the access protocols. The station can't decide whether we belong here or not. Because of me, Thora realized. I'm triggering the defenses. Chen shook her head. Not you specifically. The knowledge of the Conclave's presence. The station remembers those who locked it away. It's confused by our cooperation. The tremors intensified. Sections of the liquid metal walls began to solidify and crack. We need to stabilize it. Chen moved quickly around the console, her hands dancing across controls that somehow responded to her touch. If the containment fields collapse, the energy release will destroy everything within 10 light years. Thora joined her at the console. Tell me what to do. Chen looked up, surprised. You're willing to help, even knowing this could change everything your people have believed for millennia. I'm willing to prevent a catastrophe, Thora replied. The philosophical implications can wait until we're not about to be vaporized. A ghost of a smile touched Chen's lips. Perhaps you have more human qualities than you realize, Admiral. She pointed to a section of the console. Place your hands there. The station needs to recognize you as a collaborative consciousness, not a threat. Thora hesitated only briefly before pressing her scaled hands against the indicated surface. Immediately, her mind expanded, thoughts that weren't her own flowing through her consciousness like a river. Information, emotions, memories spanning eons. Her perception shifted. She saw the galaxy not as discrete systems and species, but as a unified field of consciousness in different stages of development. She saw the precursors not as godlike beings, but as earlier travelers on the same path her own people now walked. And she saw the true purpose of the station, not merely a repository of knowledge, but a nexus point where the fragmented consciousness of the precursors could eventually be reunited. They're waiting, she gasped, the realization overwhelming. All this time, they'd been waiting for us to be ready. Not just ready. Chen's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, but united. No single species can safely wield what's contained here. It requires collaboration, synthesis, the union of different perspectives. The tremors subsided as the station recognized their unified purpose. The displays stabilized, showing a new configuration, a pathway forward that neither of them could have envisioned alone. As their consciousnesses separated back into individual forms, Thora found herself looking at Commander Chen with new understanding. The Conclave needs to know about this, but carefully, gradually. Chen nodded. Earth too. This isn't something that can be weaponized or exploited. The station itself prevents that. But it can teach us, all of us, if we're willing to learn together. The Forbidden Zone was never meant to be permanent, Thora said, the station's knowledge still echoing in her mind. Just a pause, a time for growth before the next step. And now that pause is ending, Chen replied. The question is whether our civilizations are ready for what comes next. As if in answer, the station reconfigured itself once more. The path they had followed and disappeared, replaced by a new corridor, leading to what appeared to be a communication center. I believe, Thora said, straightening her uniform, that the Galactic Conclave and humanity are about to begin their most important diplomatic relations to date. Chen smiled, extending her hand in the human gesture of agreement. To new beginnings, Admiral. Thora clasped the offered hand. To the end of forbidden zones, and the start of exploration without boundaries. Outside the station, the crimson mists of the death void began to dissipate, revealing normal space beyond. The barrier that had stood for millennia was dissolving, not because it had been conquered, but because those it was meant to protect had finally proven themselves worthy of what it had been protecting. The forbidden zone was forbidden no more.